like to go over some situations in the case, or continue on what I was talking about. How the prosecution is trying to win this case. They're trading in evidence with assumptions, and how they're going to go about, how they're trying to go about to do that, was set up from the very first day I got arrested. One was to bar me from the store, and two was to put a restraining order against me, against the individual. Now, what the barring of the store does is allows, or makes one believe that the store is the one that barred me, when in fact it was the court that independently barred me from the store. And the whole reason behind it was so they can present the evidence, or say to the jury, that I was barred from the store. Now, if any of the juries was to hear this information, they're going to automatically assume that the store barred me, and that I offended the store in some way. And if they're a business owner themselves, they're going to be able to relate to people who they don't want around their store or their business for a reason. So this is an assumption of guilt, an assumption of a presumption of 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 being guilty, subliminally a presumption of, you know, by saying that I was barred, you assume that I was barred because I done something to the store, or I was the one who caused this fight. So the store barred me instead of barring the other person. So if you have two individuals that get in a fight, one was barred and one wasn't barred, right? One was barred and one wasn't barred. That tells the court that the store believes I'm the guilty one. You can automatically assume, because I was barred and the other person who was also in the physical altercation wasn't barred, that the store takes the position that I am the guilty. And that's going to hold a lot of weight on the jury. So this wasn't done by mistake. This is something that they've done for years. Locking up black men is something that they're professional at. I'm, I'm defending myself, and this is one time. They've been locking up hundreds and thousands of black men, hundreds and thousands. They know how to play the game. So it's a strategic move. It's called courtroom magic, and they're professionals at it. I'm an amateur at it. This is my first courtroom fight, defending myself. I'm an amateur going against professionals at courtroom magic. And I'm going to explain to you, and this is why I am explaining to you how they're going to go about to win this case. Is through this courtroom magic. So they barred me from the courtroom. So any judge that hears that I was barred from, not the courtroom, from the store, they're going to naturally assume that it was the store that barred me. And because the other individual wasn't barred, they're going to naturally assume that the court takes the position that I'm guilty over the other guy. Number two, they put a restraining order on me against the individual. What does that tell you? That tells you, one, that I have some history. Because he's a criminal and I'm not a criminal, and they know I'm not a criminal, they have to paint me as a criminal. And a way to paint you as a criminal is to make you associated with criminals. So they're going to say, so if they put a if they put a restraining order against me, against this individual who is known to be a criminal, what does it tell you? It tells you, one, you have a history with this individual. So I roll. So it basically they're saying I roll, without saying it, I roll with criminals. We have a history together. There was some kind of dispute that we had that led up to this assault. This is their position. This is what they're trying to get off on saying without saying it. It's called trading in evidence for assumptions, making the jury assume something without saying it. So you put a restraining order on me against this individual. Another thing it tells you is that I know this individual, because who puts a restraining order on a person that they don't know? So it's saying that I know this individual, I have a history with this individual, to want to have a restraining order on this individual, right? Which is opposite the case. This individual assaulted me. I never seen this individual before. I never had one word of conversation with this individual. I don't know where he lives. It happened 2 years ago, so I could probably not, if he walked by me today, there's a good chance I don't remember him. So there's no history with this individual. But this is not the position of the prosecution. They want the jury to assume, not evidence, assume or presume my guilt. To presume my guilt, and the only way with their evidence that they have, they call so-called evidence, is not real evidence, because evidence is something you show to prove. Their evidence you show, but there's a prerequisite to this evidence, and the evidence is that I'm presumed guilty. So they have a Facebook post of me in a physical altercation with this individual. The Facebook post doesn't show the whole thing. It just shows, it starts off with the altercation already started. So how is this evidence? Because I lost it. So if I lost the physical engagement or physical altercation, does that mean I'm innocent and he's guilty? Or because I got the upper hand in the physical altercation, I'm guilty because I got the upper hand and he's innocent because he lost? So the prerequisite for this to be even evident is that you would have to already assume that I'm guilty. So how is this evidence? So they're trading in assumptions. They're making the jury assume certain things. That's not the case. And this is how they're going to win the case. They're masters at it. And I admit they're masters at it. It's like me going to a boxing match with the best that ever done it, Floyd Mayweather, and I never boxed. Right? I could really, how am I gonna, if that's his field, how am I gonna win? I go into a courtroom with people who spend years and years of studying law, right? Who has hundreds and hundreds of thousands of hours on prosecuting black men. How can I really go into a situation like that and win, even defending myself? The only reason why I'm defending myself in the first place is because they put the courts, one of the trickeries of the courts. In this case, I can't say in every case, but in this case, they give me a public defender that took the position that I was guilty from the get-go. Because he publicly said it to me on the phone. He said, the police saw you throw him down. If we get the felon video, it's going to prove that you're guilty. So why would he say that if he doesn't think I'm guilty? Why would he say that? He was like, nothing that this individual did, nothing that this individual did justifies what you did. So all we need to know is what you was feeling when you did what you did. What your thoughts were. This is a person who's supposed to be on my team. So it's really understandable why he wasn't for going for the evidence, because the evidence would show that I'm innocent. And he's some kind of plant from the prosecution team. So the same person, the same one, or the same system that allowed the individual who assaulted me to be freed on bail, right? Who's not taking any responsibility to the crimes that he was committing, where I had to say, defend myself and the lives of my life and the lives of my family. The same courtroom who takes no responsibility on letting him out is the same courtroom or the same system that gave me this public defender. Who, you know, so there's a lot of trickeries that go on in the courtroom. And this is why the judge came to me and asked me, do I want to have a public defender? And I told him, I already tried that route. I'd rather defend myself. If I'm going to have somebody in my camp that's going to be working against me, I'd rather defend myself. The judge said, it was $150 for a public defender. I said, well, I'll defend myself for free. Then he went ahead and said, you can go to jail for free. In other words, you don't have to earn your jail. You'll go to jail, right? Because if I give you something for free, that means you didn't earn it. It was a gift. So he's going to gift me jail, So like I said in the previous clip, that the courts was using this. It's almost like they're playing a game. Like, I show up to court, they don't ask any questions. It's like, oh man, he showed up. Next court date. So I wasted the whole day in court just to put, like, what was the purpose of me coming to court? If you're not even asking me what questions. It wasn't to get information from me because you didn't ask me anything. You just set another date. And they continues to do that. Every time I come to court, they just set another date. I show up to court, they set another date, and it's been happening for 2 years. This is the game they play. So if I miss one court date, then they put a warrant out for my arrest. Why? To make me look guilty. Why do they have to make me look guilty? Because they know I'm not a criminal. You don't have to make a criminal look guilty. But someone who's not a criminal, you make them look guilty. So now I have another court date in like another 3 months. Another insulting thing that the judge said to me on one of the court pre-trials. When I asked him about the surveillance video, he said, "Oh no, that's private property. That's private property." That was the response he gave me. But if that's the case, that didn't stop them from arresting me. I'm more private property than the videos. That didn't stop you from illegally arresting me. Illegally because I'm not a criminal, so you can't arrest me because I'm not a criminal. But you can illegally arrest me. One, send me a summons without sending me a summons. Meaning you didn't send me a summons, and you summoned me to court without sending me a summons. Like, how I was supposed to know there was a court date if you don't send it in the mail? Number two, the police officer coming in my house without a court order to come in my house, without permission to come in my house. Number three, not reading my rights. The police officer not reading my rights. Number four, giving me a public defender without me requesting one. What does that do when you give someone a public defender? That allows you not to seek other defenders. Like, I cannot, like, if they didn't send me a public defender, because they put me on a public defender, there's some kind of weird law that they use to manipulate the system. that I can't go and get another lawyer who's less. Let's say someone who defends for free, because it's like you only get one choice. You can't switch up. So if you use a public defender, you can't get your own. Now you can pay for a lawyer, you know, but like this case should never even be a case. You just look at the surveillance video; it shows the whole information. Like I said in one of the first two clips. Um, so yeah, so this is not a case of presenting evidence. This is a case of making the jury assume without acknowledging that they assume. Um, it's based on presumption of guilt, meaning the evidence is not evidence. The, the, it's not evidence, but it makes a person presume that that I'm guilty. And every action that the courts made makes it assume that I'm guilty, like I talked earlier. So they're going to win the case with assumption that I'm guilty, even though it's unconstitutional, because every person, every citizen, is supposed to have presumption of innocence. You're supposed to enter a court case with the presumption of innocence, not with the presumption of guilt. But that's impossible in this case. It's impossible, because the trial, the key evidence against me doesn't make sense without the presumption of guilt. Doesn't make sense. And the judge that allows it is because of that, because it's the presumption of guilt is unconstitutional, then the case becomes unconstitutional if the judge allows it. And of course the judge is going to allow it, because I see the mentality of the judge already. I don't have to see him to be fair, because I already know he's not fair. I already know. He already told me it's not going to be fair. He said, you can go to jail for free. So free meaning I didn't earn it. Another reason why it's not fair is because when I offered to use my own personal cell phone as evidence to show the crimes that this individual was doing against me and other people, they said, no, you can't use that footage because it's your personal. The courts will not allow it. But the key evidence that the prosecution is using is somebody's Facebook post. Somebody who used their own personal phone. So the trial already is starting off not fair. You have a judge and you have two sides. One can use their personal phone, and other ones can't use his personal phone. One can use a personal phone to upload on Facebook, but the other person can't use his personal phone to defend. That right there starts the case off unfair. And this was told to me by the clerk at the clerk. They said I cannot use my personal phone. Also, when I don't want to say attorney, but the public pretender. Someone said pretender, public pretender. In this case, when they gave me public pretender, but in this case he wasn't even pretending like he was on my side. It was like he was just not doing anything. It wasn't like he was even trying to pretend. When he refused to go to pick up the surveillance video, I said, could you at least go to the court and put a motion to reserve the tapes? And I gave him the time of the tapes. Not only the tapes that happened that day, but the next day. Because the guy was stalking me for months in and out, trying to find me. And assaulting my family, people in my family, to find out where I live. And the police, when my sister took my brother, because he got assaulted twice by this individual, right? because he assaulted him because he wanted to find out where I live. Mind you, there's a restraining order against me, against the court, and he's been stalking me. He's been stalking me, and there's a restraining order against this individual against me. So he goes to my brother. My brother can't even press charges because the police tell him this case is already pending. They won't allow him to press charges. They said, okay, what's the individual's name? No one knows this individual's name. So, oh, we can't press charges. You don't know his name. You don't know where he lives. How can we gonna press charges? This is what they tell black people, right? But if an old lady got assaulted by a black man, they're arresting the whole block. They're going through the whole block. They're arresting the whole block. She don't have to know anybody's name. She said, oh, it's a nigger. It's one of those niggers. She's going through the whole block. You know? And my sister's a witness because she brought him to the police station. Right? She brought him to the police station. And they said that, and then they wanted me to go down and talk about the case. But this is a whole different assault. I wasn't there. He's assaulting me. He's stalking me. Right? He's just stalking me. And it seems like he started stalking me even harder once there was once they put a restraining order on him. It seemed like he upped his stalking. So one of the evidence, I asked the public pretender, or in this case, he didn't do a good job pretending, right? Was to get the next day, because the next day showed him coming at me with a gun. That's why I like to call him the gunman, because he came at me with a gun as revenge to what happened a few hours earlier, because it was the next morning. So he waited all night. So how can somebody be physically, the two charges that they gave me was strangulation and severe bodily injury. Number one question the court has to answer: how can I severely bodily injure a person without striking them, without stabbing them, without shooting them, without using any kind of object against them? How can I severely bodily injure a person? Okay, you could say strangulation, but that's already a charge. You already charged me with that. So the other charge was just 10 years, right? It's not like a little white lie. It's 10 years. They always call white lies that white people do, little white lies. But those little white lies give black people 10 years and up. So they're trying to give me 10 years for severe body injury. So the court has to answer the question: how can a person be severe body injured without being struck, without having an object used against them, without being shot, without being stabbed? How can a person be severe body injured? So that question needs to be answered by the courts or by the prosecution, which is, in my thing, the same. You know, and this is how they, incarcerate. When I got arrested, the officers are arrested because they arrested me maybe like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was like, wow, why are there so many? I was amazed. Why are there so many black officers? Like, I didn't see one white officer, and they didn't hit me the next morning when those same black officers were magically white officers. Because it's in the DNA of the black people to want to work at night. It must be. It's not racism. Of course, it's not racism. Yeah, so those black officers magically became white officers in the morning. When I went to court, I think I might have seen one of the black officers there. So yeah, they have a desired. The black officers have a desired shift that they love to take. That's the answer to that question. It's in the DNA. It's not racism. It's in the DNA. So, you know, I forgot my point. My point being, you know, when I got arrested, and I'm trying to remember what my point was, but I don't. But we're gonna pause that. Um, so if you want to support me getting I do need to get a lawyer, and I need support getting one, and I'm gonna have a link to my um, GoFundMe page, and also you can cash at me. So thank you very much.